Counter-Strike's maps may not have changed fundamentally due to their inherent formula, but in many ways, they have adapted to stay relevant. There have also been cases of unfavorable maps receiving reworks, transforming from bad to respected. Of course, it's not always a smooth transition. With the first version of Train for CSGO, there was an attempt at revamping certain parts of it, but it didn't help make it more interesting. Yes, changes were positive, but it needed something better, and this led to the first ever rework for a CSGO map. Nuke received a similar treatment. Maybe some mistakes were made, but it worked out in the end. Not all are meant to be equal though. Some never got any support and remain empty, hidden in the depths of the past. Yet, I think there is no CS map as unfortunate as Cobblestone. Although a fan favorite, its legacy is one of glory and banishment that spans throughout the entire history of the game, and I want to show you how it could never catch a break. Going very far back into the development phase of the original CS, mapper David Johnston, satisfied with his creation of DE Dust, wanted to make a map with a castle setting. The result is CS Crystal, and as proud as he was of his creation, the reception was not positive and it didn't get the chance to be featured in the game. Off to a bad start, but undeterred, he would later come back with DE Capable, which was a lot better and got introduced in CS Beta 6.5. It was an instant hit with the community. After some refining, it's no surprise this castle made it to the final map pool. I'm sure everyone has fond memories of endlessly shooting at the B choke point, surprising the enemy with a sniper from the tower, along with the many crates to climb onto. No, by the way, it's spelled DE Capable in honor of the old traditional 8-character restriction. Even the competitive scene agreed with the viability of the map. It was featured in tournaments along with the greats and provided many memorable moments. Until something changed. Last appearance of DE Cobble in a major tournament was CPL Winter 2005. From there on, it was seemingly being excluded or replaced by Tuscan/Mirage. Well, to be completely transparent, its actual last appearance was at Intel Extreme Masters 2008, but that is besides the point. None of the other S-tier tournaments up to 2011 have it. Cobblestone became irrelevant. At least from a competitive standpoint, loads of community servers still have it in their default map rotation, but why did it fall out of favor like this? No other map has had this happen to them. Yes, Hatstick and Prodigy were also featured in the beginning of the pro scene, but that was before a concrete standard existed. Cobble, on the other hand, was a certified hood classic. Why did it deserve such a fate? I'm not a competitive expert, but I personally believe the reality is in the map's layout. Entrances to each site have choke points, CTs can easily have a stranglehold on. Rotations are not the hardest to do for either side, but Ts will face the same issues. This meant one of the only options is to just rush and hope they don't get killed from the many possible angles. This one demo of SK versus Nip shows SK attempting a dangerous boost that ended up in a TK. The one-dimensional gameplay and lack of strategy just didn't make for an interesting match. I might not be entirely correct here, but speculating is the only thing I have really. There isn't any specific info I could dig up about Cobble's exclusion. In that case, why was it even considered viable to begin with? Personally, to put it in the simplest way possible, it's easy to learn and balanced, but I guess boring for the competitive scene. Now, it is also important to point out, Brute Maps made a reworked version called Forge, which improves a lot and in a way gives Cobble a second chance. It even managed to be featured in some big tournaments, but this appreciation was short-lived because after mid-2012, CS 1.6 tournaments were no more, and you know why. Cobble was not included in CSGO initially, but it made a return in the December 2013 Winter Offensive update with a slick new facelift, which was much needed. People rejoiced, yet weren't the biggest fans of the changes. It was relatively jank. You have to give credit to Valve for breathing new life into it with tons of experimentation. They could have just taken Forge, but I like their unique approach that also stays true to the original. That's not entirely a good thing though. Some parts of the map are a bit too fateful. It's still holding on to the old ways, like some sort of grudge against contemporary society. Don't get me wrong, this is a great start, but it has a lot to improve upon. Luckily, it did. The changes can be summed up as general optimization plus cobbling of stones. And instead of going over every single minute detail, because I am sure we all know how this map looks, let's go over the intricacies of certain design decisions and how they changed. The old school parts of the map didn't belong in this day and age, so they had to be removed at some point, like this little boost. Or the infamous mid-CT window, which tried to stick around but rightfully got deleted. No, I guess not all of them are completely gone. The one-way drop was a first for the game, and it was a great inclusion to give Ts more options with tackling B-site. A second one-way drop was this window next to it, but what's most bizarre is the spiral staircase / tight corridor connector thing, which was a stark contrast to the size of everything else. This area was a chaotic mess, but it did get polished. The most important transformations, however, were the bomb sites going through a few iterations, the main problem being the abundance of unorthodox angles and hiding spots. I know this is common for a map like this, but it really didn't need to have this many of them. So, after about 2 years of updates and many pro matches being played, Cobblestone is finally fixed, and everyone is happy. But we all know this isn't how it ends. It began with a simple Halloween update in 2018, which in of itself was a fun event that brought some interesting changes to our castle. Significantly moved up T-spawn and blocked off the previous area, closed off a long connector to underpass, moved forward a site while completely removing the old one, and B dropdown is now climbable. Why did such a drastic reform happen? Maybe this was a last-ditch effort to fix the map, because, well, it still didn't have the best reputation. To sum it up, Cobblestone was essentially Rush B the map, as we can see by HLTV's heat map, because A is almost impossible. The one-dimensional gameplay and lack of strategy just didn't make for an interesting match. Wait. Oh my god. We just went full circle. In spite of everything and having pretty good balance, this castle apparently does not let go of the past. That last rework remained after the Halloween event, and in general was rather disappointing, so Valve gave up, removed the entire map from the competitive pool, and focused on their new golden child. So we have a proof of concept that wasn't good, a second iteration that was initially good but fell out of favor, a third iteration that was better but came too late, and a fourth iteration that changed so much yet maintained its crooked core, got sabotaged, and then removed. I don't think I have ever seen such a timeline for a CS map, and no, I did not forget about the CS source version, but it's the exact same as the original, so nothing of note. With all that in mind, the community still remembers this stronghold fondly and eagerly wishes for it to come back. Despite all of its flaws and green moss, there is charm to Cobblestone. There is definitely something captivating about its verticality and iconic landmarks that gives it its own identity. Knowing how Valve are always listening and observing, I don't think bringing back this fan favorite is out of the question for CS2. We have no idea what exactly the future holds, but one thing is certain, it won't be the same. And I don't mean the Halloween or pre-Halloween version, it needs something more, something bigger. Otherwise, we might consider that this fortress has fallen. Well, wasn't that witty and hilarious? Anyway, I love Cobble as much as you do. I know you'll tell me how it's actually good and that the competitive sweaty scene doesn't matter, cause you played it for hours on community servers. I've heard all that before. Alright, I'm gonna go read about Stirling Castle. It's a pretty cool one that's in Scotland. Been there since the 12th century and one of the most important structures in the country.